Good morning. This is Elijah from Wonderland, and today the sun is moving through hexagram 4, Jinki 4, youthful folly, leaping off the cliff into the waters of devotion. And it's in the Jinkis, it's intolerance is the shadow, to understanding is the gift, to the city of forgiveness. It heals the fifth line wound of guilt. It's one of the 7 seals. It's the ray of pearlescence. So I've been sitting and drinking in this key as I'm about to leave, and right after this video, leave to the Beloved Festival, which is a sacred art and music festival that's honoring the beloved through everything, through life, through relationships, through each other, through your partner, discovering the beloved not as some external love, but actually as the one love that is emerging naturally from the true essence of who we are. And the waters of devotion, this abysmal river element that we're working with for the next few weeks, it's all about that emerging current of love, of the devotion, communicating with clarity and purity by dynamic movement, by committing completely to the moment, committing our heart essence, committing our life, trusting in the rapids of life as she takes us home, as the water takes us home through the path of least resistance, as we discovered last week, carried by the gravity of love. And so here the water is welling up at the root of the mountain, water beneath the mountain. And I love, having journeyed through the mountain, we saw mountain and water dance through Jinki 39, through provocation, dynamism, liberation. And here the forgiveness key is inverting how those two elements are dancing. So we're actually rooted in the body of flow, of the waters of devotion. And the mind, the heavenly triagram, is that still mountain. Stilling the mind, stable like a mountain, clean, clear air, strong earth, rooting all that energy into the dynamic flow of passionate love, of devotional love. You know, appreciating how we communicate and how others communicate with us, and forgiving the places where we haven't been truly voicing that from a place of love. So intolerance is a tricky shadow. You know, there's very obvious intolerance in our world, and there's also very, very subtle intolerance. And it can be about anything. It can be as gross and collective as racism and sexism and these very clear intolerances. And then it can be in the most delicate of places in our relationship, of just really thinking that we know what is best, and being frustrated when that's not what's occurring, being stressed and half-hearted. And literally, when I'm being intolerant with someone, whether very vocally or internally intolerant and judgmental, I'm creating this division. I'm holding back half of my heart, and I'm actually constricting the brain around one particular opinion about someone or something or how it should be. And I've stressed my head, and I'm not fully flowing the devotion and the commitment of my heart. And understanding is the restraint that emerges through real commitment. Committing to the river is not committing to one idea. Committing to a relationship, for example, is not committing to how you think that relationship is supposed to be. You're committing to the intelligence, the alchemy of that relationship. You're committing deeper to the love beyond whatever the illusions and constrictions and turbulence may bring up, karma may bring up in the interim. We're on the long haul. We're going all the way home to that devotional heart. I'm committing to love. I'm committing to the values that I stand for. I may not know how those will show up. I don't know how those are going to be challenged. I don't know how those are going to be refined and shaped and maybe even changed. Because this is about youthful folly, right? Only fools are foolish enough to fall in love. Only fools are foolish enough to face their darkest dragons. Youthful folly, jiving off the cliff of what we think we know into the abyss, the abysmal rivers, the waters of devotion. So if we can commit to that love beyond what we think is supposed to happen, the intolerance is about the constriction around what we think we know, what we think we should know, what we think other people should know. Should is a good word for that intolerance. You know, any way that we divide our heart from others or from ourselves through the mind, through that distinctive mind, versus committing deeply to love beyond the illusion of what occurs, and restraint naturally become from that. You know, understanding is not a mental concept. It's actually understanding the fundamental patterns of love and compassion, the cosmometry of life, this infinite true programming beneath all of life. This is a Om Mani Padme Hum shirt, you know, with the cosmometry of the lotus, the double 5 spiral, just like rippling out from this lotus of who we really are. The basic, fundamental programming of all human beings, of all sentient beings, is love and compassion. And not stupid compassion. You know, intolerant is intolerant of stupid compassion too. It's divinely intolerant. It's dissatisfied with anything that is not love. But understanding is the restraint of the mind, restraining our need to know the dilemma of our reasons for why we think something should be something the way it is or the way it should be. Restraining that impulse and committing to the heart. Committing to the heart. That's really what this key is asking of us. Which is why the wisdom of the mountain is calming and stilling the mind. Stillness. So devotion is our body. Stillness of the mind, so devotion can flow from our essence. And that's forgiveness, stillness, and devotion. If I can be still amidst anything, I've sat through some really traumatic experiences and people really just you know, things that are hurtful, things that are unforgivable. Oh, what a powerful concept. Unforgivable acts. So I sat one day and I was thinking, no, I believe I could forgive this person of anything. I believe I would sit with my partner through anything. At least sit and have the conversation. It may change things. The river may change the form of relationship. Things die. Things change constantly. But I'm devoted to a love that's beyond the illusion. Even if I'm hurt in the process, the forgiveness is this ferocious devotion of love that will carry us through any change. And this is the level, the opening to the fertile opportunity for this level of forgiveness to land on this planet. Forgiving karmic debt on all levels. I mean, that's a lofty goal, but it's something to mindfully drink in this possibility that war and intolerance and xenophobia and racism and class systems, hierarchies that are causing this division, that are stressing us through half-hearted love, that can melt. And it starts with us every day. It starts with taking full responsibility for myself and forgiving myself for the places I've abused and misused my power, for the places that I've been abused and misused. Because I'm not a victim to these outside circumstances, but I do have the opportunity to rise through these challenges. Stillness and devotion. Can I be devoted enough to be still with no charge to exactly what's occurring? Now, we can't force forgiveness. You can't force that state. This is an enlightened state. It's not something to expect that we can just do. I mean, it is. It's our basic programming. But still, there's layers of conditioning. We're human. We're going through this epic hero's journey of life. So we honor the bends of the river. We commit to that bends of the river. We open just to the possibility of forgiveness. You know, we don't rush it. We don't force it. In situations, I'm choosing in my relationships that though I open my heart to the possibility of forgiveness and being forgiven, because it's the balm for all of love, for relationships, for how we use our voice. It heals that fifth line wound of guilt. How do we use our voice? What are we speaking into the microphone? What is our prayer for the world when we walk through the world? How are our leaders showing up or not showing up? And how can we actually honor the heart that has just not been fully loved? How can we open that half-heartedness? How can we be fools? It takes a fool to believe in forgiveness. It takes a fool to leap off what we think we know. The reasons that we hold our heart in check, the logical mind that constricts our capacity to truly love as a flood of love, as a current, unstoppable joy, a current of great devotion. So these are my thoughts, my heart thoughts, my heart songs on this key of devotion, of stillness and devotion, of forgiveness. As I leave for this beloved festival, and I've been talking about relationships, and I just really want to honor, for me, what the core of the Venus sequence work and the Gene Keys work is doing, is beyond what the form of the relationship we are in will take. Commitment commits to something deeper than the form that a current relationship is in. And I've watched some really beautiful breakups recently in relationships of truly choosing change, not as a sabotage, not as a running lack of commitment, not as a not seeing their own patterns, but honoring the alchemical process of what a relationship is, and honoring the intelligence of that relationship, including where those rivers bend and fork. And just honoring that it's not about the other person in a relationship, at least not at first. Let's really take full responsibility for ourselves. And anytime we're intolerant of our partners, of relationships, to really breathe that in. Where am I not opening my heart? Where can I just understand where that person is coming from? And compassion naturally emerges when we reach our empathetic heart out, when we listen, when we use our mind, when we listen to what is that they're going through. Even people that have hurt people physically. Be careful, be mindful of your temple, and don't lever yourself in toxic situations and physical or dangerous emotional abuse situations. And how can we be even with that level of pain? Where I've been physically harmed, and understanding where that person came from, and actually really reaching out with my heart and understanding, not to them, because it doesn't matter about them. They have their own path. Every person has their own parallel journey to learn, to be forgiven, and to forget by forgiving themselves. But I can reach my compassionate heart into myself and say, wow, people that have hurt me have been hurt. They haven't known full love, and I can have compassion there. As well as every place I've hurt someone. Man, I've really made some big mistakes that have caused a lot of suffering for people. And I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. These profound powers of true forgiveness. And just like all of the women in my life that I've hurt unconsciously and consciously, I am sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you. I love you. And to the men and the women and the brothers and sisters and the mothers and the fathers and the grandmothers and the grandfathers, our ancestors, both the white light of the ancestors that hold us so dearly and guide us, and those deep karmic wounds and those genetic patterns and those victim stories that were passed down through conditioning. Sometimes that was the only way that someone knew how to love, because that was what they were taught. Forgiveness to these deep lines, these deep wounds that have just been wound up love, stressed love that doesn't let the full devotional flow to move through our bodies. So we still the mind. We take in the full objective perspective of that logical mind, like sitting on top of the mountain to see everything, not just our ideas, not just why it hurt me, not just what I need, but really that objective view to understand the fundamental level of life, so that the compassionate heart of devotion may flow and nourish all beings. Many blessings.